When I came out to my family, my sister sneered, "That explains why you'll die alone." My mom slapped me, and my dad called me defective trash. That night, they posted I'd gone insane and needed prayer. By morning, the locks were changed. I slept on a rainy bench while they ate cake beneath warm lights, until I was invited onto a talk show that exposed their lies to millions. I never thought the night I came out would end with me shivering under a flickering streetlight, clutching a soaked backpack, watching rain bounce off the empty bus stop bench. I can still hear my sister's voice, that sharp, cold laugh cutting through the tension. "That explains why you'll die alone," she'd said, arms folded like she was proud of it. My mother slapped me before I could even speak again. The sound cracked louder than thunder outside. My father called me defective, like I was a broken machine he'd wasted years trying to fix. My aunt muttered a prayer in the corner and said I was possessed. They didn't just reject me, they announced it to the world. By morning, our family's Facebook page had a new post. "Our child has lost their mind. Please pray for their healing." They made me sound like a headline, not a person. When I tried to go home later that day, the locks were changed. Through the window, I saw their shadows laughing in the warm light of the living room. My mom's favorite TV show playing. My dad's chair still there. My spot at the table gone. So I sat on that bench in the rain, all night, with nothing but my phone and a pair of wet sneakers. I didn't cry. I didn't even have the energy to. I just stared at the sky, wondering how people who raised me could turn into strangers in one evening. Then, at 4:23 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a message request from someone named Lydia Marks, a producer for the Real Talk Hour, a syndicated daytime show out of Chicago. She wrote, "Saw your story circulating. We'd like to invite you to share your experience. Travel and lodging covered. Interested?" At first, I thought it was a scam. I had no story, I just had pain. But then I realized someone must have reshared my mother's post, and people online were already talking. By noon the next day, my inbox was full. Some people told me to repent. Others said I was brave. But Lydia's message stood out because she didn't pity me. She said she wanted to let people see what real family rejection looks like and what love should. So I said yes. 2 days later, I was on a Greyhound bus to Chicago, wearing the same jeans I'd slept in, clutching a coffee cup I'd refilled 4 times at a gas station. When I got to the studio, I was nervous, but the crew was kind. They gave me a change of clothes, a meal, and a warm place to sit. But then Lydia said something that made my stomach drop. "Your family agreed to appear too. They'll be on stage after your segment." I froze. They were coming. After everything, she nodded. "They said they want to tell their side. You okay with that?" I wanted to say no. But deep down, something in me, something that had been bruised and quiet, wanted to look them in the eyes again. Not to beg, just to see if they'd still lie when the lights were on. So I said yes. The day of the taping, I stood behind the stage curtain, heart pounding. The studio lights glowed. The audience clapped for the opening segment. When it was my turn, the host, Diane Keeler, smiled warmly and gestured for me to sit. "Everyone, please welcome Jordan from Columbus, Ohio," she said. The crowd clapped. I told them everything from the slap to the Facebook post to the night on the bench. You could hear people gasp. Then Diane said, "Jordan's family has joined us today. Please welcome them." The curtain opened. There they were, my mother, father, sister, and aunt, sitting side by side. My mother's hands folded neatly. My father with that same disapproving stare. My sister pretending not to look at me. The host turned to them. "You heard Jordan's story. How do you feel hearing that your child slept outside after being locked out?" My mom's voice trembled. "We didn't lock them out. They left on their own." The audience murmured. Then Diane held up her cue card. "That's interesting, because we received footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera that says otherwise." The studio went silent. And on the big screen behind us, the footage began to play. It showed me knocking on our front door, my father walking up, locking it, my sister turning off the porch light, my mother's voice from inside. "Don't open that door." My mother's face drained of color. My father tried to speak, but the crowd was already reacting, some gasping, others booing. Then Diane said, "Jordan, would you like to say anything to them?" My voice shook, but not from fear. "I didn't come here to get an apology," I said. "I came here so the next kid who comes out to their family won't end up on a bus bench in the rain." The audience stood up. Applause filled the room. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt seen. But then, the twist no one expected happened. During the commercial break, Lydia, the producer, rushed over to me, whispering something that made my blood run cold. "Jordan, there's something else. Someone sent us documents about your family. You're going to want to see this before we go back on air." Speech balloon quick break. What would you have done if your family did this to you? Comment below where you're watching from. I love hearing from different states. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you think families need to hear this kind of truth. Lydia pulled me to the side of the stage while a makeup assistant touched up my face. Her expression was tight, urgent. "We got these files about 15 minutes ago. Someone sent them anonymously," she said, handing me a tablet. I scanned the screen. Emails, documents, bank records, all linked to my family's names. "What is this?" I asked, barely keeping my voice steady. Lydia's eyes met mine. "Your parents weren't just trying to disown you. They were hiding something big." She pointed to one of the email chains. It was from 3 years ago. My father had sent it to a church elder, asking for help with a donation discrepancy. But the file attached showed a transaction history from the church's building fund. Money had been siphoned out. Over $70,000. The account it went into, a private shell company registered under my sister's name. I stared at the screen. "Why?" Lydia didn't hesitate. "We think your coming out was just convenient timing. They needed a distraction." It clicked. My family had always been heavily involved in our church back home in Columbus. My dad was on the finance board. My mom led the women's ministry. My aunt even taught Sunday school. So when I came out, it wasn't just personal. It was political. If they painted me as mentally unstable, possessed, and rebellious, they could shift focus. No one would be asking where the money went. Lydia leaned in. "We've verified it, and we're going to air it. With your permission." I hesitated. This wasn't just revenge, it was exposure. Then I remembered that cold night on the bus bench. My sister's words, my mother's slap, the locked door. I nodded. "Do it." Back on stage, the lights went up again. The audience settled. Diane Keeler's voice returned to her usual calm, journalistic tone. "Before we went to break, we showed you footage that contradicted the family's statement about locking Jordan out. But there's more to this story." She held up a folder. "We were sent documentation that appears to reveal financial misconduct connected to Jordan's family and their church in Columbus, Ohio. With Jordan's permission, we're going to share those findings now." The screen behind us lit up again. Bullet points appeared. $72,443 withdrawn from the Restoration Christian Fellowship Building Fund. Transferred over 18 months. The account holder, Crystal W., Jordan's sister. My sister's face dropped like a stone. Next to her, my father stiffened, jaw locked tight. My mother turned to him, whispering, "You said no one would ever find that." The microphone caught it. The audience gasped. Diane turned to me. "Jordan, were you ever aware of any of this before tonight?" I shook my head. "No. I just thought they hated who I was." My sister suddenly stood up. "This is ridiculous. That money was a loan. Dad said the church board approved it." But Diane held up another document. "This is a signed statement from Pastor Lee, your former head pastor. He says no such loan was ever approved. In fact, when he tried to investigate, he was removed from his position." That's when the room erupted. Some audience members shouted, "You're all liars." Others booed. Some just stared, mouths open. My aunt reached for her purse like she wanted to run. Diane looked at them one by one. "Do any of you have anything to say?" "This is your chance." My father stood. "This show is a setup, it's trash journalism. We don't have to stay here and be slandered." Then he turned and started walking off stage. My mother followed, red-faced and shaking, my aunt close behind. But my sister, she paused. She turned back to me, her expression changed, like something cracked inside her. For the first time, she didn't look cruel, she looked scared. "I didn't want to go along with it," she said. "They said we'd lose everything if people found out. Her voice cracked. "I was scared, okay." She ran off stage too. The audience sat stunned. Diane turned back to me. "Jordan, I think it's safe to say you've just uncovered a much bigger story than anyone expected. And you've done it with grace." The camera zoomed in on me. I didn't feel victorious. I felt weightless, like the chains had finally snapped. After the show, the producers told me the episode would air nationwide the following week. They also said legal teams would be contacting the church board and financial regulators. But that wasn't the part that stuck with me. It was the hundreds of emails and messages that came pouring in after the show aired. From kids who'd been kicked out. From parents who said the episode made them rethink how they treat their children. From pastors who said they'd been forced out for asking questions. It was bigger than me. Way bigger. I wasn't just the family's scapegoat anymore. I was someone they couldn't silence. But just when I thought it was over, that justice was already on its way, something happened that changed everything again. Lydia called me 2 days later. "Jordan, the IRS just raided the church office. And guess who they're trying to pin it all on? Me." The call came while I was staying at a small extended-stay motel outside Chicago. I'd finally had a full night's sleep for the first time in weeks. Lydia's name popped up on my screen at 6:17 a.m. I answered groggily. "Hey!" Her voice was sharp, serious. "Jordan, the IRS just raided Restoration Christian Fellowship's main office. Someone gave a statement saying you were involved in the financial transfers." I sat straight up in bed. "What? They're claiming you accessed the account and made the withdrawals," Lydia said. "They've turned over an email forged, obviously, that has your name on it." My heart pounded. "So they're framing me." "They're trying to," she said. "But we're not letting them. We're already working with a legal team. The original evidence is clear. None of the accounts were under your name, and your devices weren't used. But it's going to be a fight." I felt like I was drowning all over again. Just when I thought I had finally pulled the curtain back, they were already sewing up a new one, thicker, darker, nastier. But this time, I had something I didn't have before: receipts, lawyers, and people who believed me. Lydia put me in touch with Megan Russo, a civil rights attorney who agreed to take my case pro bono after watching the episode. "This is classic scapegoating," Megan said as she reviewed the files. "They needed a fall guy, and you were easy to blame. Emotionally discredited, publicly queer, and formerly homeless. They thought no one would listen to you. But someone did. The entire country." Over the next few weeks, things escalated. The church held a press conference claiming I'd manipulated the media to attack a faith-based institution. My father gave a tearful interview on a local news station claiming I had struggled with mental delusions for years. But Lydia wasn't having it. She gave every reporter full access to the uncut footage. The financial records, the doorbell camera video, even the transcript of the forged email where the metadata clearly showed it was created on my sister's work laptop. Megan filed a defamation suit against the church board, my parents, and my sister. I didn't want to, but they left me no choice. "You can't let them keep doing this to you," Megan said. "They're not just attacking your identity now. They're attacking your name." She was right. And then came another twist. The anonymous person who had originally sent the documents to Lydia, they finally came forward. It was Eli Turner, my old childhood best friend. The same Eli who stopped talking to me when we were 16 after his parents told him to. He reached out through Lydia, asking if we could meet. We met at a little diner in Worthington, just north of Columbus. I walked in nervous, unsure what I'd say to someone who'd ghosted me for 6 years. But the moment I saw him, I could tell something had changed. "I owe you an apology," he said, not even waiting for coffee. "I knew something was wrong with your family. I saw your dad moving papers late at night when I helped set up for church. I kept quiet, and I shouldn't have." He'd been collecting documents for over a year. He thought about going to the police, but he knew the town was small. The church had pull. When he saw my segment on the Real Talk Hour, he knew it was time. "You were always the brave one," he said. "I was the coward." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at him, trying to decide if I hated him or forgave him. But in the end, I just said, "Thanks." He passed me a flash drive. "There's more on here. Stuff I didn't send yet, including video of your dad pressuring a church accountant to forget about some numbers." With that, the case cracked wide open. The IRS shifted focus. Warrants were issued. And one chilly October morning, my mother, father, and aunt were all arrested on federal fraud charges. My sister was served a subpoena to testify. And me, I was cleared, publicly, but the damage still clung to me like smoke. I wasn't just the kid who'd come out and gotten disowned. I was the kid who brought down a whole church. Some people treated me like a hero, others acted like I was poison. But I wasn't done yet, because I still had something left to say. And this time, I was going to say it in my hometown. I returned to Columbus for the first time in nearly a year. It felt surreal, pulling into the Greyhound station where I'd once sat soaked and alone. But this time, I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was walking back in as the person they tried to erase, and the whole country had seen it happen. The town hadn't changed much. Same chain restaurants, same weathered signs on the churches, but people looked at me differently now. Some stopped me to say they'd seen the episode. Others crossed the street without saying a word. But I wasn't there for them. I was there for the Truth and Transformation Town Hall. Lydia and Diane Keeler were hosting it, a follow-up event filmed live, giving people who'd been harmed by churches or families a chance to speak up. They asked me to open the event. I didn't know if I could. But I stood in front of that microphone in the same city where I'd been told I was possessed, defective, unnatural, and insane, and I took a breath. "My name is Jordan Walker," I said, "and when I came out to my family, they didn't just reject me, they erased me. But what they didn't count on was that people were watching." I talked about the lies, the door locks, the fake prayers on Facebook. I told them about the bench in the rain, about the talk show, about the church raid, about the arrest. And then I said, this isn't just my story. This is every kid who's been told that being themselves is a sin. Every parent who thinks shame is love. Every church that hides behind God to protect a scam. This is your reckoning. The room erupted. After the event, dozens of people came up to me, old classmates, strangers, even a former Sunday school teacher. One woman held my hand and cried. "I believed them when they said you were lost. I'm so sorry." But not everyone was sorry. 2 days later, I walked into my old neighborhood just to see it one more time. The house looked exactly the same. White siding, sagging porch, curtains drawn tight. As I stood across the street, a car pulled up. My sister got out. She froze when she saw me. "Jordan," she said, walking slowly over. I didn't move. She looked different, tired, like the weight finally caught up with her. "I'm cooperating with the case," she said quietly. "Testifying, telling the truth. I should have done it earlier." I just nodded. "I was a coward," she said again, the same words Eli used. "I didn't mean what I said that night, about you dying alone." I looked at her. "I know," I said. She looked at me with wet eyes. "Do you think we'll ever be family again?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "I don't need a family that only loves me in private. If you want to be my sister in the open. Speak up. Tell the truth. Stop hiding behind silence." She nodded, not in defense, in surrender. Before she left, she handed me something. A small, worn photo of us as kids at the county fair, cotton candy in my hand, her arm around me. "I kept it," she whispered. I walked away. That night I checked into a small airbnb on the edge of town. Alone, yes, but not abandoned. For the first time in my life, I knew who I was. The final court ruling came 3 weeks later. My parents were sentenced to 5 years each for financial fraud and tax evasion. My aunt was fined and barred from leadership in any nonprofit organization. My sister avoided jail by cooperating fully, and she publicly apologized during her statement. Restoration Christian Fellowship was permanently closed by federal order. But I wasn't celebrating their downfall. I was celebrating my survival. Final scene, I sit on a different bench now, not at a bus stop. This one's outside a little bookstore in Chicago. I have a job now, assistant manager. Small place, good people. I host a monthly LGBTQ+ book night, and last month, a mom came in with her son just to say thank you for sharing my story. Turns out, I'm not alone at all, and I never will be again.